Good afternoon, gentlemen, and this is your Thursday preview prior to the Thursday night games. Tonight we will enjoy, or at least have to endure, the Minnesota Vikings traveling to the Arizona Cardinals in what could potentially be a game. It could also be a complete trashing if Arizona should get ahead early and Teddy Bridgewater needs to throw. Not going to be entertaining. I recommend you do anything else should that be the case. A lot of fantasy relevant players involved here. Some of those play for teams that are no longer in the running. But certainly there was a lot of stock for those of us in the playoffs in this game tonight, as well as those of us, and we'll get back to that later, who are playing for a good pick and a good choice of a pick in next year's draft. Remember that just because you didn't make the playoffs does not mean that your performance going forward will not impact you for next season. Once again, we will get back to that later. We'll talk about some of the major things to consider there, as well as the repercussions of some of these actions. But with that being said, taking a look at the free agent pickups today, there's one thing I want to draw your attention to. And, it seems as if I know today that Team Oz was at a lunch with Team NA, MKTW, Mark and Trampus's team. And you notice here that Steve Smith, who was dropped at 11:57 a.m., Jason added him last week to play him against me because he is my favorite player. He inspired Jason's team to go completely nuts. By far, Jason's best performance of the season. Blake Bortles was Jesus on a football field, among other things. You notice he was dropped at 11:57 today and added at 12:01, which defined collusion. Is collusion saying, hey, while you enjoy your Miller Lite, let's give you Steve Smith. So Nathan has to face him, and the ability Steve Smith has to motivate 2 weeks in a row with his season on the line, define collusion. Silly collusion. Nevertheless, collusion. Tim Hightower, I like this pick by Han. Mark Ingram out for this season. I love players like Chris who continue to play when they are in the toilet bowl. Play the season out. It's what it's here for. The first thing I want to do is take a look at the Constellation Ladder and kind of explain how it works, because there are a couple things that we do and we have done for 2 years that could be a little bit unique. So just to make you aware of that, the way this worked out last year as an example is here's the Constellation Ladder. So for half of the teams in the playoffs, you see those teams. Shake and Bake plays Team Suck D this week, and a team that would really, and you know what, I might make it right now. My lock of the week is Team Suck D over Shake and Bake, and I honestly think the spread in that game, it should be upwards of 35. Jesse's team is banged up. What are they playing for at this point? And Luke's team, is a dangerous team, and that's my lock of the week. I hate to do it this early and ruin any sort of drama, but Team Suck D is going to move on in that matchup. Rammer against Adam Brandt's Mighty Midgets team. You got to like Ram in that matchup. Once again, he's still playing. He's playing for the opportunity to select where he picks from picks 1 through 6. And as well as 50 Shades of Clay, I'm going to pick them once again. Gray sent me a text and says, man, my team's rolling. He finally got healthy. Sammy Watkins is back in the building. CJ Anderson having some opportunities that you may not have seen with Peyton at the helm. The way the Constellation Ladder will work, though, is, and I'm not going to bring it up for sake of time, but once you lose, you can still earn the right to the first selection. And by that I mean last year, as an example, my team played Tyler's in the toilet bowl in the first round. I defeated Tyler. However, Tyler won his next match and had the second most amount of points, which put him in the championship game against my team for the rights to the first pick in the draft. Tyler won that rematch and therefore won the rights to his selection of picks 1 through 6. I came second and had the choice which pick I wanted. Once Tyler said I want the first pick, I did take the second pick. So just so you are aware and think about this as last season, 4 of the teams that did not make the playoffs from this toilet bowl are teams that selected where they picked and made the playoffs this season. Keep that in mind if you are in the toilet bowl. It is important for next year. Case in point, we only have 2 teams this year that made the playoffs last year and this year. Those teams, one of which is Mr. Luckbox. The other is it's Des for 6. The other 4 teams in the playoff bracket this year did not make it last year. were teams that drafted between 1 and 6 and made the playoffs. So there you go. Continue to play despite where you are in the bracket. It's Des for 6 and Lollipop Guild. 2 teams getting to rest this week. Their players will not matter, just trying to get through without any injuries. As far as projecting these teams, there is no reseeding. It's not like the NFL playoffs. I might be open to that suggestion, but this is the way the bracket will look. It's Des for 6 to me. And again, I am 0-8 against Jason Stuffle in fantasy football in my career. My apologies, I was interrupted by a student there who came in inquiring about a test she had received. Lollipop Guild is a team I have not defeated ever. But projecting going forward, to me, Brent's team and Adam Foster, Mr. Luckbox told me this last week. Brent's team, when it's healthy, he always seems to have 1 or 2 guys going off. Maybe not the most consistent, but certainly a dangerous team who the winner of this matchup will be in a tough spot against a very, very good team. Brent's a good manager. He's hit on a lot of players who under the radar this year. But Brent will be resting. Let's go ahead and take a look here at the preview of Mr. Luckbox and Simply Simple Victory. Tyler's wife's blog. She's done a great job this year. She's really taught us a lot of things about interior decorating, bringing pieces of nature that are now dead into the home and utilizing those to make the home a happy environment. Taking pieces of garbage and using them to decorate the home. They don't believe in mounting televisions. Tyler won't mount a TV or close his blinds. Loves it when people are looking in at their daily lives. With that said, take a look at this matchup. It's these 2 men were roommates for 4 years, I believe, somewhere in that area. See Mr. Luckbox with the ultimate streamer, Matt Hasselbeck. I actually love this play this week. With that being said, the last time that Pittsburgh and Cincinnati played, it was a surprisingly low-scoring game. See here, Big Ben is on the road. I believe his last 5 games he has thrown for at least 330 yards. However, this is a game where do we anticipate it will be low-scoring again? I do not. I think this is a game where Gio Bernard becomes involved. It becomes more of a passing game. We know Pittsburgh's going to throw the ball around. Taking a look at Todd Gurley's matchup, he's been a little bit colder of late. Thomas Rawls is going to go nuts once again. Baltimore is the easiest matchup they'll be winning. Thomas Rawls, to me, is a top 3 running back play this week. To me, Tyler's receivers are what hurt him. But if you look at Adam, he's got backup quarterbacks. He's got Randall Cobb, who just it's unbelievable, really, how poor he has played this year, how poorly he has played. I tell you what, the running backs on these teams are very, very strong. I lean just ever so slightly with the flex and running backs to Adam's team. I think David Johnson, Matt Forte, both guys going to get heavy workload. I think the touchdown upside is slightly stronger on Adam's side, which could come as a surprise to some with Todd Gurley. But frankly, teams realize that Nick Foles is terrible. As well as anybody they're going to put at quarterback is terrible. I would, however, give the advantage at quarterback to Tyler's team, and I really like this is a tough one for me to project. Both of these tight ends, it doesn't look like Gronk's going to play, unfortunately, for my team this week, but Scott Chandler, Benjamin Watson, both kind of 60 yards. Do they score touchdown guys? And really, this is a tough one. Dez made some plays coming on in that last game, but really both of these teams are dealing with receivers that are very underachieving, very underwhelming performances. And really, it's going to come down to which team gets the bigger performances out of the running backs. And just simply because I see more guys on Tyler's team with high upside, I like Tyler a lot in this matchup. I think Tyler moves on. This is a great week as far as matchups go for most of his players. Top to bottom on his team, and I really like Tyler in this matchup. I think this is a spot where he can move on in the playoffs and then have a chance to knock off potentially Brent's great team in TDRich, formerly called TDRich. But here's Team NA, Mark Kelly and Trampus Whalen. Against myself, I've gotten a lot of grief about having a 6-7 record and getting in the playoffs. And what I would state, first of all, is that last year there were 2 teams They got in the playoffs at 6-7. I would also state that they played each other in the championship. So that does happen. Historically, that the teams do get in with losing records. You see, it's pretty much a wash as far as projections go here. The one thing Trampus and I have talked about a little bit, and by Trampus I mean Mark and Trampus because they do co-own. I believe every one of Trampus's players is a 1 o'clock start. So this is a situation where, to me, depending on what type of upside I need with some of my players, I may be able to move some guys around. Now, what it does is it makes you second guess your original thought process, which becomes a problem. But this is the way we have it right now. As far as me, I'll get inside both of our heads here very quickly. As far as me, I refuse to allow a 3 carry LeGarrette Blount 1 point performance not let me move on. So I'm going to go with the higher floor in Doug Baldwin, as well as the higher ceiling the way he's been playing in a good matchup there. But this is the way I'm thinking my team is going to look. Unfortunately, once again, I'm without one of my players who can go for 20 points in Gronk probably once again this week. I did add the Monday night tight end in case Gronk is a game time decision. They play Sunday night. This allows me, I like Will Tye. He's been coming on 60 or 70 yards in 3 games in a row for the Giants. Good matchup against Miami. Maybe they try to take away Beckham, involve Will Tye a little bit more. I did decide to play my best player in the slot, Antonio Brown, which obviously, Trampus did as well. He's playing Sean Drone in his flex, and we know how good he is. It's going to be a tough matchup. Honestly, you look on paper at how this breaks down, and you see the low position rankings on my team. I like where my team is. I like the way that they've gotten into the playoffs. It did hurt me that Gronk isn't playing. With that said, if you take a look at these matchups for Trampus, his running backs, I believe, play the 27, 28, and 31st best run defenses in the NFL, and that's bad for me and good for him. They're kind of waiver wire guys. Jonathan Stewart's carries may be limited, but so hot right now. I certainly like Trampus's matchups much more than mine. As far as that goes, this has been a year where you can play matchups, especially if you play DFS. I like all of his running backs here. I'm counting on the Carolina secondary to limit Julio Jones. That could really be bad for me if Julio has one of those games that he hasn't had in a while. But, is this the week again at Carolina? Carolina was not good defensively last week in the secondary or really anywhere, giving up 1 million points to Drew Brees in a win. Cam Newton is the MVP. This is going to be a heck of a match, and I'm not going to make a prediction here. What I will say is that I think this will come down to, I think each of us is going to have an unknown breakthrough, and whether for me that be Doug Baldwin or Will Tye, or perhaps Chris Ivory even, who has really come down. I think one of us will have one of those guys. For Trampus, it could be, Sean Drone. Maybe he has a huge game. Maybe Charizard West gets the goal line carries and all the work there in a great matchup. I think the quarterbacks should even one another out for the most part. I think this is really going to come down to who has that guy who doesn't always go off. We have a lot of guys who get a lot of touches, a lot of consistent performers, and really this is a matchup that I think could really go either way. Tougher matchups for my team than Trampus's, but really this is going to be a great one. Going back to the projected scoreboard here, we'll take one more look. Some other announcements I had for this week. Jason asked me to bring up my lock of the week record, and what I will state is that it has not been my strength. I have been poor, to very poor, to really awful at my locks of the week, but I like it this week. I'm taking Team D in that one. Once again, congratulations to the repeat playoff teams. Wanted to remind you also that Jesse won an honorable mention for almost making the playoffs. By his gorilla math, he missed by 1.2 points. I don't really know what that means, but he's not in the playoffs. With that said, this week we are brought to you by the Robert TDRich company. No longer the Tesla Adler Wayland. That we don't support them anymore. We thank Jason Stuffle. It's pronounced Dietrich. Robert TDRich company. Exit music. I got to get it in. The Fix, Jeremiah, and Nelly. It's a great beat. I have the censored version here for you. This week it's going to be a good one. Once again, Exit music, Nelly, The Fix, Jeremiah with an H.
Got a man, got me thinking Shawty ain't right. She said she ain't about to creep like